In fact, not only is the sea ice not melting, it's still expanding. Each year, the extent of the sea ice is different. To see how far it reaches this year, I need to travel right to the edge of the sea ice. But before I can set off, a massive snowstorm hits Kulusuk. We can't go anywhere. The 140-kilometre-an-hour winds make a trip to the local shop a major expedition. By the next morning, the storm has passed. I meet up with my guide, local hunter Gio Utyak. His hunting grounds lie right at the edge of the sea ice. I'm hitching a lift on the only form of transport that can get us there.
She's so keen. How far do we have to go to get to the hunting grounds?
20, maybe 25 kilometers.
After 2 hours, we reach a huge expanse of sea ice.
It's impossible to comprehend that the snow we're travelling across sits on ice, which sits on the ocean. We're travelling across a frozen sea, and look at this. This is an iceberg actually trapped within the sea ice. It's the most astonishing landscape or seascape or icescape, what do you call it, that I've ever seen. It's like another world.
And then, surprisingly quickly, the edge of the ice comes into view, and I can see the Arctic Ocean. Gio tells me that only days ago, the ice extended out for several more kilometres, but it seems the storm has broken it up. For obvious reasons, we make the last stretch of the journey on foot. Using his traditional spiked tool, Gio checks the thickness of the ice at the edge.
Are you sure? There is something very disconcerting about walking on sea ice when the open sea is so close. Is it safe? No problem? Are you sure? Yeah, it looks pretty solid. How thick is the ice? Like this thick? You can see it, isn't it? Oh, you can see it. Actually, you can see it's like a great cliff of ice that goes right down into the water. It seems strange to be walking across a frozen sea here in Greenland when back at home the daffodils are beginning to come up. But what's even stranger is that measurements of the sea ice over the last 50 years show that it only reaches its full extent now, in early March. So clearly there's a lag between the arrival of the warmth of the sun and the melting of the ice. But why?
It comes down to the properties of water. We've already seen that well into January, land continues to lose more heat than it gains. Because water radiates heat even more effectively than land, the oceans take even longer to start warming up. So although the land has been warming since January the 19th, the sea is still losing heat, and the ice continues to grow.
Greenland's sea ice is at its maximum extent at this time of year in March. But over the next few weeks, the tilt of the Earth towards the Sun as it orbits it will allow the Northern Hemisphere to get an increasing amount of solar energy. The days will get longer and warmer, and the sea ice will begin to break up and recede. Then the hunting season will be over. The existence of the sea ice here in Greenland is testament to the complex response our planet has to the Sun in whose orbit we travel. But it's a very delicate balance, and no one is more acutely aware of that than the people who live here.
Gear tells me that even before the storm, this year there was less ice than in previous years. It's part of a trend over the whole of the Arctic. The area covered by sea ice has shrunk significantly in the last 20 years. A series of warm winters have meant that the seas haven't cooled down as much as normal, so not as much ice has been able to form. There's little doubt that the cause of the warmer winters is us.
Global warming can feel like a myth when back at the UK we've endured a string of very cold winters. But here on the front line, it's a reality.
Most predictions suggest that the Arctic will continue to warm rapidly over the course of this century. It could be that we may well prove capable of generating the kind of climate change that in the past has been created by changes in the Earth's orbit.
We've now reached the middle of March and we're approaching the spring equinox, the end of our journey for now.